It's live via you. Hi, guys, and welcome to a brand new episode of Sipping Tea with Suzanne. I am so excited because in the studio with me today, I have none other than Worcester's very own city manager, Mr. Eric.
Hello, how you doing?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well.
Well, thank you for
Great
saying
to be
yes.
here. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, did you say yes or did your chief of staff say yes?
Both.
I'm joking. I know you said
She's the one who really controls the schedule.
I know. That's what I said to my husband. I was like, they don't really control their schedule. They just get told where they're going.
Yeah.
So, no, thank you so much. And, she's in the studio with us. So thank you for saying yes. I appreciate that. But before we jump in, so I know you noticed like today we have a shorter version because, we have to be mindful and respectful because he's doing a lot of things. I don't know if you heard, like, Worcester is the second largest city in the Commonwealth. So he has one or two things on his plate. But I want to shout out my sponsors. So Life Garden Cafe, who is my space sponsor for season 1. Thank you so much. And season 2, we have Paul Anderson Photography. And if you are interested in becoming a sponsor, please reach out. Let us know. We're going to go live with our sponsors in January. But I am so excited today because, Eric, you have been in this role for how long now?
1 year.
December
December 6th was the full year of.
Oh, my goodness. That was my first show. I should have had you on for your one. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I did promise Manny that he was going to be my very first guest, so I couldn't go back
Okay.
on the word. So, all right. So it's called Sipping Tea with Suzanne. So I have to pour his tea, and I'm told that he actually likes tea, which is great. So for all you coffee lovers, ha. So
I'm actually a more of a tea guy than coffee.
yeah.
I don't really do coffee as much.
No.
I do coffee when it's when I'm really, have a long week. I'm really
Yeah.
tired. I have a little guy at home, and
Yeah.
it might be a little rough. Then okay, I'll maybe have
Do the coffee.
But it was like one, and it's like very rare.
Yeah.
I'm a tea guy.
No, tea is so good. Like, and I'm like, I've turned my husband into a tea drinker because it's just like, for me, it's common. It's just like,
Yeah, it's relaxing.
it does. It sets the tone. So we don't have a lot of time, and there's so many things to cover because Worcester, honestly, I came to Worcester when I was 16 years old. So maybe 2-3 years ago, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. See, and he believed that. So he could see that. All right. And, it was so different from what I came into. So you've been in this role for a year now. Tell me, though, what is your biggest accomplishment, you think? What are you most proud of?
Oh, man. This year was a big year. There was a lot happened. It's something often it kind of feels like, and community also feels that in a way where sometimes people forget that I've only been in the role a year.
Yeah.
People think I've been in the role for 10 or 15 years. I've been in the city hall for 10 years, but on the role only a year. But there's been so much because 2023 has been a year that not only for me and the city, but also just community as a nation have gone through so much.
Yeah.
There's so many things happening.
Yeah.
Housing crisis is the number one thing that's happening, impacting a lot of people. Inflation costs, which impacts the cost of everything, whether it's buying milk or buying eggs. Remember, eggs at one point we're paying $5-6 for
Listen,
eggs.
that was a luxury. I'm like, I would say to my kid, just one egg, because they'll be scrambling 4. I was like, we're not Oprah. Like one egg.
One egg, that's it.
That's it.
One, you get 2 today.
Not 2.
And
but
so
yeah.
all of that, all those pressures, utility, the national grid raised their prices, all that stuff started impacting people. So, we had to kind of think creatively. So I think one of the highlights of 2023 was us being able to be flexible enough to put money into preventative programs, to provide funding to the community, whether it's to food insecurity, utility bills, etc. Just providing money to the communities, rental assistance, so that they have, and they can stretch the dollars a little bit more by this assistance. So we were able to do some of those things. Another thing that has been discussed quite a long time for here in the city is we've talked about body cameras for police officers.
I remember.
And so we were able to launch body cameras for police officers this year, and that was very important for us to get that out and build that communication and transparency between community and the police department. In addition to some of the housing issues that we've faced as a city, we were able to implement a policy, inclusionary zoning policy, that helps to that any new development moving forward has to have a minimum or a restriction on affordability. And that's important to ensure that every development moving forward has some affordable units for the people in this community and the people who are also having a tough time in terms of trying to be able to get into places where their market rates could be a little bit more expensive. Um, you know, we implemented a policy on specialized stress codes, which means is right when we look at energy efficiency and sustainability for our community and making sure that we're greener and we're paying attention to the climate changes. One of the policies of the specialized stress code was the city opting in to this stretch code that any new development moving forward has to be electrified. No more gas, no more oil, no more of that kind of level of infrastructure. It has to be all electric to provide solar opportunities, but also reduce that kind of carbon footprint that we have as a community or as a nation. And so there's been a lot of, real strong policies, implemented program, millions of dollars funded into the community for programming through some of the ARPA dollars. So it's been a little combination of everything. And then one of the biggest things that we did this year was we restructured our Office of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We elevated, we increased the salary of the equity officer. We're recruiting right now that position. And then also we've added more positions to that department. So the department went position of 2 to now a department of 10.
Wow.
With more teeth. It has an investigative unit to it. Human rights has been added to that element. So it's expanding and restructuring to give more sense of authority and ability to strengthen the work that they do as a DEI office. So that's been huge. It's been my number one priority is to build DEI work in the city. And so we've been busy. 2023 has been a busy year.
Okay. Do you think 2024 is going to be easier?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I don't think so, because a lot of these things, right, they're stuff that continue on. The housing crisis is stuff that we're going to continue to work on. We're going to have to figure out different programming, different incentives, different strategies to ensure that people are having the opportunities that they need. We're going to continue to look at our hiring practices. How do we ensure that everything that we do continues with a equity lens? How do we look at our contracting, whether it's vendors and goods for the goods and services, all of our contractors, making sure that it's equitable in the way that it's the contracts are awarded. So all of those things are going to be extremely important as we move forward. And so there's a lot more work and there's a lot more things that I want to accomplish, that I want to do as a leader, and that not only my ideas and my thoughts, but also things that I've heard from community, from different organizations. I attended Leadership Worcester.
Yes.
Leadership Worcester had great ideas and thoughts about Worcester, right? So that's one segment of the population that has what is it that we can do better? What can we improve? How can we do more? I go to neighborhood meetings. They are also expressing themselves. City Council has their thoughts and ideas. So again, it's a combination of hearing from residents, community leaders, and then figuring out how do we put that together. And so in the upcoming year, we're going to be building a strategic plan for the municipality to how do we improve our operations, how do we improve our delivery of work, and how can we expand some of the services that are currently working in the community as well.
No, that's important. I mean, one of the things I noticed you mentioned a lot is equity, and I think that's a word that, it's a buzzword, but it's also a very important word because everybody's been talking about equity in every industry. And, you talked about the housing crisis, and it's not just in Worcester. And I know sometimes it seems like it's only in Worcester. I went to, was it Baltimore? I went to somewhere down there for vacation. It's the same thing, like the homeless population or the unhoused population. It's everywhere. Every state that I drove through, everyone is having the same challenges because it's like the housing crisis is the same in every state. Unhoused is the same, inflation, interest rates, like all these things. So I know that you guys are being strategic in terms of addressing it, but there are still folks that think that there's more that we can do. So is there anything that we can share, like what else are we going to be doing towards 2024 to ensure that, the inclusionary zoning is something that is top of mind, is foremost, it's not forgotten, it wasn't just something from 2023?
Yeah, no, so the part of that is making sure and working with developers that they're adhering to these policies. So a lot of the permits, a lot of the application process, they can't move forward or they can't be approved with planning and any other elements if they're not including that element as part of the development. And so there's going to be some checks and balances as part of that work for the developers as they build more housing. Now, one of the challenges that we have as a city, and I think this is, you alluded to that, right, is there's a big demand. We have a demand for housing, but we don't have enough housing, which then creates higher rents and higher, which then impacts the people to be able to pay those rents, right? Supply and demand, microeconomics. and me as an economics background, a major, this is like real live what I studied in college. And we have a supply demand issue right now. And so we need to figure out how do we work with developers to show them that, hey, this is a community that that you can work with, you can bring business, you can develop and you build more housing. But at the same time, how do we create those opportunities for the folks that live in the city or the folks that don't have the means to pay $2,500 or $3,000 in rent can pay that and can be able to afford some of these units. And so it's balancing that. You mentioned that Baltimore, the unhoused and some of the homeless issues in that community. I have an aunt and a grandmother that live in Alaska, Anchorage, Alaska. I don't know why Puerto Ricans are in Alaska.
I don't know.
That's
like Jamaicans in there. Like, why?
Puerto Rico to Alaska? Like, what are you doing? So, but they live in Alaska, and my aunt has been talking to me and letting me know that there is significant unhoused.
Really?
In Alaska. In tents, encampments all over the city.
Like, how are you unhoused in Alaska? It's so cold.
Yeah,
like,
and so in the winter times, they spend the time in looking for shelter, but in the summers, they're out.
Wow.
They're out in encampments across the city. So it's even, again, this is not just a Worcester issue.
No, it's not.
This is such a global issue that's happening across and we need to figure it out. We need to do our part, and I think we are. Little by little, we're figuring out what our part is in this moment. We have a strong relationship with the state delegation to work with them and try to get state resources and federal resources in. But again, it's going to require everybody hands on deck to really kind of inch little by little this issue.
No, absolutely. You mentioned Leadership Worcester, and I'm a part of Leadership Worcester. Yay, 2024, the best class.
2026. 2016.
26, yeah, no. The best class, that's what Karen told us.
She told us that too.
I think she told that to every class, FYI. But, we're part of that. And I think one of the things that I love about that is like, I'm able to go to different industries and see how different things work. Like, last week we had education, Rachel Menora is the superintendent and all of that. And we went to like homeless shelters and just see many different things. And, I remember, I think one of the first class, like you were there and, you talked about something that I'm not going to get into because if we get into it, it's going to take up a lot of the times. But I think that for me personally, going into it, I think you have an idea of how the city works. And like I had an idea, but what was like the biggest surprise to you though? Because like you were in City Hall, but then like you're the city manager, and like you think let's go in and like just have a blank check, right? Because that's like what I assume. Like Eric, you're in there, you have the money, just write the check and get these things done. So what was the biggest surprise for you though going into office? Like, wait, I can't just write a check and do what I want to do, or
yeah. No, it's a great question. The fortunate thing that I had was that before I became city manager, the previous city manager, because of my experience and my knowledge in financing and monies and whatnot, because I worked, my first job out of college was in finance.
Okay.
He got me involved into the budget process. And so I started paying attention and understanding the budget as a whole. And so when I came into the role, I kind of have an idea of what the funding and how do we support some initiatives, et cetera. I think one of my biggest kind of areas of learning and understanding has been more so getting involved in understanding the politics of Worcester. And some of them are more entrenched than others, depending on the issue. And so understanding them a little bit more, understanding what some of the players I've been working on for many, many years, what some members of the community are been fighting for years and years, and what are the things that they want or they need, or things that have been promised, or things that I've been working on that I haven't been able to get done. So that element is an area of learning and growth that you have to, and the only way to do that is to spend time with people and talk and get to hear and listen, and you have to do a lot of listening. I think that's one of the biggest things is that people oftentimes, they think, coming into a role like this is, because everywhere I went, people was like, "Oh, what's your vision? What's your vision?" It's like, time out, slow down, right? And I can come in with my own big vision of what we want to do for the city, but I got to take a step back.
Absolutely,
it's not about Eric Batista. It's about the city of Worcester, and the city of Worcester is 206,000 residents, and if not more, or people are engaging and connecting with the city. So I have to take a step back and listen. listen and listen with active ears. Because sometimes people, they're hearing, they're not really listening. And then what they do is as you're talking, they're already ready to reply without really understanding. So a lot of that, it's important to really understand what's happening in our community, what we need. So then you can be able to craft a strategic plan and a vision of what it is that, okay, based on this is what now we're going to be working on as a collective, as a city.
No, I think you're right about that in terms of vision, because I do think that's something that we ask, when somebody gets into a new role, it's like, what's your vision? What's your vision? And I think when I was much younger, whenever I took over a new role, like you go in with a vision, like you have a plan, right?
Yeah.
But like you're right, that is your plan and your vision, because that's your understanding of what this role needs.
Correct.
Until you start actively listening and it's like, okay, I might think this, but this is what they actually need.
Correct.
So then listening and then just implementing like part of your vision and what they need, and kind of trying to find some middle ground, because there's no way everybody's going to be happy.
Yep.
There's no way you're going to implement everything that you want. And your vision of what Worcester looks like could be different from
Absolutely.
what actually Worcester needs.
Correct.
And being humble enough to say like, hey,
Yeah.
I thought that, like, for me personally, if everybody went around in guns and tutus and tiaras, like, I'd be happy.
Yes. Yeah.
I've been told that's not.
Yeah.
Some people don't like gowns.
Yeah.
Shocking.
I'm not wearing a tutu.
Like, you're not.
I'm not wearing a tutu.
Exactly. So, we have to be strategic in terms of, like, listen, understand. And I think that I find that even people that, you don't necessarily agree with.
Yeah.
I think you can always find common ground, because I don't know whether you connect through family, connect with wanting to be a better person, wanting to have the community be a better place. I think we can all find common ground if we actively listen versus listening to give you a solution, because
Correct.
we all have that mindset, like, let's solve this problem, right?
Correct. And that's the thing, right? I think everybody lives in a city, in a community that you're a part of, that you invest in. It's a community that you want to see grow and be better.
Absolutely.
Right? And not only for yourself, but also as a community. And so everybody has their special kind of desires and needs and plans and interests. And you have to be respectful of that and understand what that means. It's not everything about what you want. It's about what collectively what we want. But sometimes it's not 100% of everything.
Yeah.
Because maybe the moment is not ready for 100%.
Yeah.
Or we have to gradually get there because the resources are not there. And so going back to your question about resources, right, that's something that's important that some people don't understand, right, is the city of Worcester has a finite number of funding, right? And that funding is based on how much we tax you, right? How much we tax your property and how much we tax businesses is how much money we able to receive to do those services that we do.
Yeah.
And so that level of revenue could be finite, or could be, it's not like it's a blank check that we can just write, because any more addition that the city takes on, any new programming, any new departments, anything the city takes on, what we need to do now is we need to figure out how we're going to pay for that. And the only way to pay for that is we have to look at taxes, right? Or perhaps look at state or federal dollars as grant money to be able to help us to do that, right? And so, but when those federal and state monies are not there, then we need to look at the tax dollars. And so that's an impact. So when communities are saying, well, the city should do more, you do more, yes, I'd be happy to do more. But again, me taking more ownership of that responsibility, which means also could impact your ability to pay taxes, which meant that if I raise taxes, or we're recommending to raise taxes, and the council votes for the increase of taxes, then that's going to impact the property owner's taxes, which then is going to impact rents.
Rent. Yeah.
When then is going to go again impact the same housing crisis that we've been dealing with as a community. So again, you have to be able to balance those situations, because everything has a ripple effect. And it's not just easy of saying, hey, take money from this one and put it here, which we could do that with some departments. Maybe we could take from one department and put it in the other. And those are things that, there's been a big discussion sometimes of saying, oh, we should reduce services here and add them here. Absolutely, we could do that. But then there's always a consequence when you do that, right? And for example, I know there was a big controversy around defunding the police. And so we could do that, but then when there's emergencies and response, how do we now respond to that? And we're already down over 60 officers from the complement that we're supposed to have, because not many people are going into the public safety world. and we have the same issues in the fire department. So again, all those things are things that we have to consider and balance. So even though community or resident may want 100% of something, I can't give you 100%. I can give you 65%. The other percentage may have to come later, or you may never get it because we're just not at that level to be able to achieve that.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think it's a very nimble dance. And I think one of the things that we have to do as a community is consistently go to places and spaces where you can hear information. I remember, because like to me, America's always borrowing money. I hear like we borrowed $1 trillion here and we're sending $1 million there and all these money. And I remember saying to you, like, they don't have to pay a bill because since I've been in America, like we've been borrowing money and I've never heard us paying it back. I hear so that's why I remember I asked you at one of the meetings, like, hey, like, why don't we just borrow money and you're like, no.
Keep racking up the debt.
Because who comes to collect it?
So I would love to do it. So that's the thing, right?
You told me, but go on.
So
tell the audience why we can't just borrow money.
I wish I could borrow as much money as I want to pay for stuff. I wish we could.
Yeah.
The issue here is that when you borrow money, right? We're allowed to borrow money as a city, but when you borrow money, it's, I guess I'm gonna break it up into more layman's terms, right? You as an individual, you have the right to borrow money. You can go to the bank and say, I need $50,000, a personal loan. That personal loan may have a 15% interest rate or whatever it may be. And that interest rate also could be determined based on your credit score. And so now you have to pay on a monthly basis that loan. Now you may have the income to pay that. And then let's say you now want to buy a house, right? And you can stretch your income to buy that house. And that house also now applies an interest rate. That interest rate is based on your credit score. The city, a municipality is the same way. Anytime we borrow money, right, now we have to pay interest on that money and pay the money back. That interest is determined by a bond rating agency. So bond ratings happen once a year, and they determine the rating of that community. How wealthy the community is, how much money you have in reserves, how much debt you're accruing, how much you're paying back, what are your revenues. They're looking at your financial picture, similar to the credit card, to your credit score. And they give you a score as a community. And that score determines how much you pay in interest rates, your debt. And so if our score drops, then that means we have to pay higher interest rates, which means that when we're paying our debt, we're paying a lot more money, which means to pay that debt, we need taxes. We need more taxes to be able to offset that debt. So you see what I'm saying?
I did.
And at the end of the day, anything a municipality is asked to do or to take on more, like more debt, the only way to pay that and the only way to pay those things is through taxes. And the only way we tax is property taxes, meals tax, hotel taxes, commercial taxes, even ticketing people. Right? When we ticket people, when you're parking meters and that ticket, that goes into the general fund. So that helps. Selling trash bags. People have been talking about the trash bags.
I don't want to talk about it because we don't have enough time.
Selling those trash bags brings in revenue for the city. And so, again, at the end of the day, we can offer these things for free. But then there's an offset of cost because it's still going to cost us to make the trash bags. It's still going to cost us to go and ticket people. It's still going to cost us to So how do we pay for them? The only way a municipality pays for these things, it's either federal or state grants or taxes. We don't have a cup that we're selling. Hey, $15. My cost went up. Hey, now it's $20. We don't have that. And now I think one of the biggest things too, and there's been a confusion with folks, is there's two things when it comes to taxes, is the tax rate, and then your overall taxes of that property. So the tax rate is set by City Council. They determine the tax rate every year. They vote on what rate they should be taxing property owners. And so that rate then is applied to the value of your property. And so based on the value of your property, if it goes up, that means that the overall taxes of that property are going to go up. And so oftentimes people are saying, well, Mike, you keep raising my taxes. Well, no, we've been reducing the tax rate year over year over the past years. The council has been voting the lowest residential tax rate every year. And so, if you look back in maybe 2015, 2016 or so, the tax rate was probably in $18, $19, maybe perhaps. Right now, the tax rate is about $14, right? And so what means is people saying, oh, my taxes keep going up. Yeah, they keep going up because the property values keep going up. So because of the property values keep going up, your tax allocation, what you have to pay back, is going up. But the rate itself, the rate that determines that tax is actually going down.
Okay.
But the rate of the values are going so much higher that is increasing those taxes for people. And that's the challenge with people sometimes are confusing the two.
No, I mean, listen, thank you for breaking it down. Like when we had the conversation, I was blessed enough to be in spaces where I can ask that question, because I kept saying, like, again, I never hear America paying back their money. So I'm like, let's just do the same thing. Like, let's just keep borrowing. Like, who's going to come collect, right? What are they going to do, take the city? But apparently, we got to balance out and all of that. So no, thank you but where I was in a space that I could ask you, where can citizens get information like this though? How do they hear about things like that so that they understand a little bit of how City Hall works?
Yeah, I think the biggest times when we're having these types of conversations or details of this is, one is sometimes is the council meetings, depending on budget seasons, when I'm giving an overview of the budget and trying to give a perspective of the budget. Sometimes it's just in these events or when I have the opportunity to go to different organizations or you talk to young people and express about, and they're asking me specific questions, I'm able to lay that out to them. And so there isn't much of a space where ask the city about finances, ask the city about what this means. Perhaps we could do a better job and kind of give fun facts. Did you know such and such, and kind of give more information out there. And maybe we started this new kind of program called the Buzz.
Yes.
And so what we're trying to do is how do we put out more information and communicate more with the community. And this may be an area that we can communicate more. At the end of the day, talking numbers and finance is not really sexy to people.
Fun or sexy, never.
And people are like, yeah, he lost me at taxes. And so, it's if you're a geek and you're a nerd when it comes to municipality like I do, then okay, maybe you get into that. But if you're not, then you're not really paying attention to that. I mean, me as an individual, I really didn't pay attention or didn't know. I didn't even know we had a city manager form of government, so I was about 29 years old when I applied to City Hall.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know we had a city manager. I thought it was all about mayors.
Yeah.
So again, and that was me living and growing up in the city from a young age, but I was never exposed, never connected with government. So at the age of 28, 29, that's when I really, this is what it is about. And I had a Google search of this stuff. So oftentimes it's getting, the more and more information we put out, the more and more we communicate with folks, the more informed they're informed. And they know what's going on and what's happening. But I think we're seeing a generation of folks that are desiring that information and more transparency for municipal government, which allows more for civic engagement. And I think that's where we're trying to think through creatively of, okay, how do we do that more then? How do we engage and how do we put out more information?
No, that's wonderful. I mean, I do agree it's not sexy to talk about taxes in any way, shape, or form. But I kind of like the did you know thing, because I think that's something that, hey, did you know? And maybe just put a blurb and then maybe they'll be curious to explore, because I think a lot of times, we say things without having the full facts, and then that's what everybody runs with. So I know that there's a lot that goes into running City Hall, and I appreciate you saying yes. I know that we're literally we have a minute left. We're running out of time. So a couple of things. I mean, you have to say yes to being on the show again.
Sure. Yes.
Yes.
I did it on live air.
Yes, you did it. That's why I did it. And, notice you have a paper with you. I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to say, to shout out before, because I know we didn't have a lot of time. So I'll give you an opportunity to say anything that you wanted to spotlight and highlight. 30 minutes is.
Sure.
So go ahead.
I think this would be good for you to kind of communicate. We're right now, our nominations are open for the Women of Consequence Awards. So that we're accepting nominations for the 25th Annual Women of Consequence. And then also the 21st Annual Young Women of Consequence Awards.
That's very nice.
And so the theme of this year is awarding trailblazing through mentorship. And so I think this is very important. So the applications are out now. Feel free to nominate. The awardees, the 2024 Young Woman of Consequence Award winner will receive a $10,000 scholarship tuition at Assumption University, which is about $2,500 a year. And then additionally, all nominees, no matter if you didn't win or not, all nominees will receive $4,000, which is equivalent to about $1,000 a year in tuition.
That's pretty nice.
Yeah, so I think it's a great opportunity for people out there, any women that lives, works, and or volunteers in the city of Worcester who has demonstrated exceptional leadership, dedication, and compassion, resulting in positive change, and this outstanding role model. Again, we encourage you to apply. Anyone that's listening, submit the nominations, because I think this is a great opportunity for people to be recognized.
All right, that's wonderful. So you heard it here. Please make sure that you are nominating people in your life. Just nominate. It's an honor being nominated, but you actually get money too. So let's do that. And, one question. So how much gray hair have you gained since you've taken on this role?
Ooh, I don't know how much I counted, but I definitely got more. My beard is getting whiter. I'm like, hey, I got my eyebrows. Sometimes I gotta pluck them out. I mean, they're growing.
No, listen. I remember, I always come back to Barack Obama in office. Yes. Like when Barack went in, he was like this young man. I kid you not. 8 years later,
whole different person.
It takes a toll. But what motivated you? Because we joke about it. There's so much going on. I think your mind is constantly have to be going and thinking about what's next and all of that and trying to make everybody happy, which you can't. FYI, you can't. If ice cream can't make everybody happy, you stand no choice.
I love ice cream. She don't love it. She's like, what's wrong with you?
I have a friend that doesn't eat ice cream.
Yeah, my wife doesn't. It's ice cream. What do you mean? What are you doing?
Exactly. It's like a food group.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if everybody can't be happy with ice cream, you stand zero chance, my friend.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Congratulations on the role. I know it's not easy. I know you had some big shoes to fill.
Thank you.
And FYI, I found out much later about having a city manager and the type of government that's in Worcester. Until it pertains to you, you typically don't sometimes look towards it. No. And it's just been the last few years that I've even
Correct.
I was busy. I was working, taking care of my kids, cooking, and I didn't.
Yeah.
Now it matters to me. So I get it. When things matter to you, you research, then you find out more. So congrats on, being a Latino man in the role. It's first.
Yes.
I think so. You're the first there.
First person of color.
First person of color in the role. So congratulations on that. And I know that comes with its own set of things.
Yes.
And, but, congrats on doing that and, being accessible and, for your transparency. For every situation that I've ran into, you've always been transparent and answer the question and things like that. I don't think I've ever asked you a question that you have said no comments. So
there's always an answer, whether you want to take it or not.
Good point. So thank you again for coming on.
Thank you for the invitation. Appreciate
anytime. You're welcome to come on anytime and, just make taxes sexy. If you could make taxes sexy, you could come on anytime. And
maybe we put tiaras and taxes. You know what I mean?
And it's TT.
See that?
Tiaras and taxes. All right. Okay, fine. You're just going to set me off. I go nuts with tiaras. But thank you. Again, I really do appreciate it, Bob. Any last word to your constituents? Is that what they are for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Residents.
Residents, all of that. Any last word for your, how much people? 260? Did you say?
206,000.
206.
It's probably up
in
now.
Worcester?
In Worcester, we have 206,000.
My God. No wonder I can't find parking.
Yeah.
But any last word?
That's a different conversation.
Okay, I will say this, and I'm going to wrap it up for real. So Shay Anderson, right?
Yes.
So when we did Leadership Worcester, he did a tour, and he's out. He talked about how we always complain about parking, and it's oh my God, I absolutely hate to pay to park. It's $1.50, right? Whatever. So I was like,
every municipal garage after 5 o'clock is $1.
Is $1. So he told that, and it's just a principle thing. I don't like to pay to park. So then I was doing a show in Boston, and I went in to this garage and park, and when I came out, it was 2 hours. They charged me $42. I almost left the car and walked home. I was so upset. I was like, I will never complain about $1.50 again. So.
But guess what? That will never deter you from going to Boston. You're still going to go to Boston. See?
I have no choice. But it's because I live here, so I kind of get it. You live here, it's why am I paying to park? Well, I paid $42 in Boston, so if I'm going to pay $3 to park for 2 hours, I'm good.
Yeah.
I really am good. And it doesn't change after 5 o'clock
Yeah.
in Boston, FYI.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, it does.
6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. I almost cried. Yeah. But anyway, any last words? And then we'll wrap it up. And then, we'll
No, I
end
just
the
want to
show.
wish everybody a Happy New Year.
Yes.
We're, approaching a new year with new ideas, new perspectives, new opportunities. So I just want to wish everybody a Happy New Year. Take advantage of what the years to come.
All right. Thank you. And couldn't have said it better myself. Happy New Year. And until next time, this is Suzanne and
Eric Batista.
saying ta-ta.